Welcome to Bentonville Heartlights, the morning after, behind the scenes, whatever you want to call it. It's about 8:30 in the morning on Sunday morning, January 10th. Last night at 10 o'clock, the lights went off. This is a behind the scenes, partly for me to document my display, partly for you to watch, I guess. This will be unscripted, unedited, and I have no idea how long. So come along for the ride if you want. If you want to try to fast forward, the first part will be talking about the other houses that you don't see in most of the videos and props that are far away from my house but still integrated. The second part will probably focus on the right over here, and then I'll slowly make my way across to the garage, probably into the yard over here on the left, work my way up across the front of the house, and then finally talk about the roof. That's what I'm hoping to do. I will pause and move, and like I said, this will be unscripted and unedited. The other comment, this behind the scenes is for folks that are new in the lighting hobby, but at least have heard of X-Lights, the software that we use. If you have questions, that's fine. Post them either on the Facebook post where I'm going to attach this or on the YouTube video, and I will try to answer them. I am a hobbyist. This is not my job. I am not a business. I am not a commercial vendor. So while I will mention products, I don't work for any vendor. And while I will mention how I do things, it's based on my experience from having my first pixel lighting display in 2014. But I am not licensed as an electrician, as an engineer, as anything. So all of this is from my experience and from my point of view. And if you choose to do it, you're doing it at your own risk. This is DIY. All right, now that we got that behind the way, I'm going to start stepping forward a little bit. I guess the easiest thing to start with is this beautiful island in front of our road. So I have the advantage, if you will, of having an island in the street in front of my house. When we start in the middle of October with Halloween, it's beautiful. It's warm at night. It's wonderful. So while it's hard to see, although some people have mentioned it in the videos, the cell phone tower back there that you see kind of behind the house, there is a public parking lot. It is where our bus barn is. So people can literally park over there, and there is a cut across road past this house right here that you can just walk down to our street, come up, and they'll sit on this island. It happens during summer as well, during Christmas as well. I said it would be unedited. And folks will come out and they'll just sit on the island. I have outdoor speakers, which I'll show you during part of this video. I have them cranked up nice and loud where it can be easily heard, and people just sit on this island, and that reduces some of my traffic flow. Okay, continue walking out towards the island. You see my house here. Part of what you don't see, and it did get a little mashed up, so we'll walk a little ways down there. If you look closely, a couple houses down, there is a ditto sign and a reindeer crossing. That is synchronized with my display. That is my neighbor's house. So I don't know how many feet, couple hundred feet. I think our lots are 115 wide, something like that. That is part of my display, but part of the reason I walk this way is if you look along this fence and look closely at this house right here across the street, this is also part of my display. This is my neighbor's house. He has been slowly adding stuff over the last couple of years, and it's been a lot of fun to sequence in his house with our house. In fact, this year, we used PPD's or PPU, Pixel Pro displays, Pixel Pro University, whichever it is. Sorry, Clyde. We used their dueling Jingle Bells song and took his big snowflake as the main character on his house, and the big snowflake that's see if I can do this again, there on my house. And for the beginning minute of the 2-minute song, mine was the guitar, and his was the banjo, and we had the two houses competing with each other during the dueling jingle bells. It was a lot of fun. It's along the lines of dueling banjos, if anybody's familiar with this. And then, I won't go all the way down there, this is another house down here with another reindeer crossing and ditto sign. So, technically speaking, I have 4 houses. I did pick up some low ray modules this year, but I just never got around to testing them. I have a neighbor that lives on the other side. So this is a big loop drive. Our neighborhood is 52 houses, and it's just a big loop that goes around, so it makes it easy. Anyway, I have a neighbor on the other side who wants to get into the display, so we'll try during the off season to get the low ray modules working, as well as a neighbor way down there at the entrance that also wants to be a part of it. So low ray modules, for those that don't know, that allows you to send, transmit sync packets on a very slow, long distance scale, but still have something without having to worry about all the ubiquity and unify networking stuff and all. So, okay, that's kind of that. Oh, and I said the morning after, there are no cones sitting around the island, but from the middle of October till the middle of January, my neighbors know when they see the orange cones out, when they come out, they know it's lighting display season, and that we're going to be dealing with the mess of traffic from the middle of October to the almost middle of January. We just, like I said, stopped last night. We go past the Epiphany, which is actually January 7th, to whatever weekend is right after that. So traffic comes in from there, as well as comes in around the backside because we are a loop and park on both sides. So we try to take that into consideration. However, where I started this video is pretty much the prime spot. We do run over a 2-hour wait out on public roads, and we touch 100,000 people each season. And that 2-hour wait is on weekends throughout the season, and from Thanksgiving to about the second night after Christmas, it's at least an hour wait every single night, pretty much all night long, from the time the lights come on till they go off. There's something I can add in. The lights come on 30 minutes before sunset, and because we have people with small children who just want to come and see the lights dance and sing, and as long as it's a little bit overcast like today, they can see the lights. There's plenty of them, and they come multiple times. And we know we have families that have followed us since 2014 when we first started and come every year. In fact, it's kind of neat because we have some of our regulars come usually on the last night, which was last night. Okay, so we'll start over here on the right. First thing I will say, variety is the spice of life. You will not see a ton of a lot of things, but you will see a lot of things. I believe in having as much a variety as possible. Something I learned from Jeffrey Holmes back in 2015 is by having different focal points for different songs. So by having variety, I can have different types of characters, if you will, be the main character in different songs. So that's something, just a tidbit. Okay, so in this corner, weighing in at a quarter of a pound, is my 3D presence. The 3D presence kind of mark this corner of the display, if you will. You know that you're starting on the display. Oh, I better back up for a second. Everybody talks about Tune 2 signs. This is my Tune 2 sign. In fact, if you notice, if we go back to the front, and if you watch a lot of my videos, like I put a bunch up, if you watch the 2 or 3 videos I manage to get out every year, you'll see lights that are lighting up on the far right and the far left of the display. That is the Tune 2 sign that is just saying 102.7 over and over and over, which is my channel that I transmit on. I have 2 north poles sitting next to it, and of course you have the stocking outline, but that stocking matrix just sits there and it's pointed at a, I don't know, 45, 33. I don't know. Somebody who's an engineer tell me what degrees is that sitting at. I just eyeball it so that I know that it's always facing the traffic. And because it's always displaying 102.7, I try to make sure that it's, not facing where I'm going to be filming. All right. Piece stakes. offset with Mickey heads. We are Mickey fans. And then the yard is outlined in 3 different type of AC lights, strobe, mini strobes, red and green. Then we have small candy canes, and we have large candy canes. We have, depending on what name you're using for them, Bellagio sticks, fire poles. This was a new addition this year that we absolutely love. This is our snowman. This is a custom item. You can get the small icososphere and the large icososphere from Boscoyo Studio, and then we had custom made the middle sphere. And we'd actually had this, James made this for me back in 2016, and I'd just never gotten around to put it together because I'd put together a black icososphere, and I didn't like the way the lights were just the lights themselves. And we got to watching a YouTube video early on this year of a guy that made a ping pong video wall, and that's when the light bulb hit, and I went, aha, we'll put ping pongs on them. And sure enough, that was what we needed. His snowman has been a wonderful thing. Yes, that's a Razorback. This is in the state of Arkansas, but that is our snowman. He's been a lot of fun. For most of our stuff, we just rebar it into the ground and zip tie it, or in the case of the Mickey Mouse stakes, we use the 12-inch lawn stake spikes that you can get from Home Depot. That's also how the presents are put in. Again, you can see the rebar zip ties. The center of the North poles, I believe, are 1/2-inch PVC just sitting over rebar. Same with the Bellagio poles. It's 1/2-inch metal pipe just sitting over rebar. I will go, I guess, a little bit for those that are into the mechanics. This is all sitting on, in this case, this is sitting on a piece of 1/2-inch gas pipe, which is stiffer, and then there's L brackets that have just been zip tied, and basically it's rebar and bed spring wire, and those L brackets that are kind of holding it all in place. Actually, looks like we had a little bit of a drop. You can see there that it's just black gas pipe that you can pick up in any home improvement store. Right, Mega Tree. Boy, I am not going to flip the camera because somebody like Jordan will say something about it. This is our 22-foot Mega Tree. This is 24 by 100 with a star on top. I think that's a 3-foot star. It's around 22 feet. Nothing fancy about this. It is from Magic Christmas, the portable hole with the ASAP Senior single stage design, so it can be ratcheted up and ratcheted down. The one thing I will say, and this is again my personal experience, nothing against any of the vendors that are selling other configurations or other DIYers that are doing other configurations. This tree is secured in 24 places across the front, 2 guide wires in the back, and 8 places across the base. I did the ring the first couple of years, but whenever doing the ring, in my opinion, again, I was only securing it on the ground at maybe 4 points. And I am no physicist, I am no engineer, but I felt like the distribution of pull was that being distributed across 4 points. Now, since I've gone to this method, where I literally just stake it directly into the ground, I'm now distributing all forces evenly across 24 points and the 2 in the back. There are no guide wires in the front, and then of course the 8 points around the base, and it's kind of hard to tell, but these are I believe those are 4-foot rebar. Pretty sure I use 4-foot rebar on those. You can't see in the center points, but in the center points it's just the yard stakes, but it's all put in there. The other thing I do is I run a strip up the center of my pole. Gives me another pole place. That's something a little different that I do. It also makes it easier for running data and power up to the star because I can just run it along this front line. All right, here's some boxes. Let's go through this. So this box right here is the Snowman box. He was added late. So it's just, I'm all 5 volt. I'm all FPP. I'm all master remotes. Okay, another clarification. So it's just a 5 volt power supply. It's running whatever, I think it's 800 pixels, 900 pixels on that. And in this particular case, it's just running off a Falcon Pi cap, which has 2 ports on it, and both ports are being used. And as you can see, all 900 pixels will be running off the one power supply. This will also power something that we have planned for next year. Yes, we're already working on next year. That will be running along the edge of the garage. I'm not going to open every single controller box. That'll get boring to people. Here's another box. 2 5 volt power supplies. One of the things you'll see, I don't know if it was in the other part, and I'm not going to back up, is that I write what year I got the power supply, just for my gee whiz. I think I've had 2 of the Chinese ones fail since I first started. They just, for me, they're rock solid and they're cheap. And I know it says 85, it's actually 185. I put the IP address just to kind of tell myself this is a Culp Pocket Beagle. I think he switched it to K8. It was F8 at one point in time. As you can see, I run all 8 ports. I just run them out the front. I used, oh boy, this is going to create a lot of questions. I run what I call a double 2-wire configuration. This is different, as far as I know, myself, Gil Jones, apologies to any X-Lights developers. Gil Jones, a longtime X-Lights developer, him and I know we both run the same double 2-wire configuration. Basically, I run data and ground off the controller, and I run positive and ground, or positive and negative, whatever. I'm not an electrical engineer either, off the power supplies, and they come together at the props. By running ground from both places, then they're connected together as soon as they hit the first pixel. I separate everything because I just do. I'm not going to get into all of why I do it. It's just something that's worked for me for a long time. It makes sense to me and it works for me. My very first year, I had grounding issues, which were causing fading and all kinds of different things. And ever since I've switched to the double 2-wire, where I basically have double grounds everywhere, I have none of the issues that I experienced in my first year. If you want to ask, I can try to explain more. I run one cable into the box and then power everything off of that. As you can see, I just made a simple jumper. I don't know what gauge of wires. Again, I'm not super technical in that sense. But I power both power supplies from one cable coming in. I don't gland anything. In fact, you can kind of see in the box, I don't run fans. I don't do a lot of the extras. I'm a minimalist. I don't do a lot of the extra stuff. I don't fuse anything. Yes, I know there have been lots of fires. I'm really sorry for those of you that experience fires. I have never experienced a fire, and I've never fused a single line. And that's a risk I'm taking, and you would be taking too if you choose to follow in my footsteps, but I am not suggesting it. Oh gosh, I'm tired of the legal stuff. Okay, other than the 8 ports, I'm also running an Ethernet cable out of here. This runs wirelessly. Again, these are all, I run master remote FPP configuration. If you're not familiar with that, just use the search function wherever you're looking at this, except for YouTube, and you should find it. That comes out and goes into, let's see if we can move boxes. Oh, and yes, everything stays on 24 hours a day through the whole season. In fact, as you can see, it's the morning after. I haven't bothered to shut anything off yet. In fact, I probably won't for a while. To my Lynx Express 5 controller. This is an AC controller. This is what allows me to control those AC lights that I was talking about that are around the edge of the yard, and you'll see more of these Lynx Express controllers. 16 channels, zip cord, extension cords, whatever. Super simple, super easy to run. They work great. It's a dimmable AC controller board. I have several of these. These are not for sale by any vendor. I will have some for sale later this year where I'm going to be splitting the proceeds with somebody else that they sent to me. If you're interested, watch out for those later in the year, because I did manage to get an early Christmas gift this year of a whole stash of just the boards. So I'm going to put them in boxes, and it's what I use for running AC lights. This is just a power supply box. All it's doing is generating power. I run anywhere from 1200 to 2000 pixels per individual power supply, so you can do the math on everything that's sitting there and which part of this the display runs. Okay, way too long. 20 minutes in. There is the most used tool that you will ever have in your display when you start having traffic. Cones. I mentioned the cones that sit out on the island, around the island. A, it's so people don't run into the island when all the traffic's here. B, it's to tell people where not to park. I don't allow people to park in front of my house when the display is running, because that blocks a whole bunch of other people's view, and so it's much more efficient. Guy wire. Let me show you with this over here. Maybe it'll focus in a little bit better. These, everybody talks about their fancy anchors. Again, I just use rebar. That's a 4-foot piece of rebar in the center, and two, I believe those are the 2-footers. Oh, gosh, they stay there all year long, right? So I don't pull these things up. The other rebar comes up. This rebar does not for the trees. And what I do is I set them counter to themselves, right? So that any pull on this wire here is got to pull against multiple forces to be able to pull out of the ground. And I do get 60-mile-an-hour winds, sustained miles of 40 during the holiday season, and I have zero issues. By creating oppositional forces for the wire to have to pull on, it just doesn't move. Now, I will say this. When I first put my tree up, usually a couple weeks afterwards, I have to crank the crank one more time on the ASAP Senior, just to tighten things up a little bit. That's the only adjustment I do. You'll also notice, if you look up, it's not actually pinned. It's pinned where it's held there, but it's not pinned at the collar. The whole tree is being held by this handle right now and this lock, and I've done it for multiple years that way. Oh, I get the comment about where do I store this thing. I just lay it down horizontally along the side of the house, and yes, I've gotten some rust on the plate and there's some rust on the topper, but as far as the rigid conduit that I use and everything, and I've managed to bend my pole from pushing it a little too hard, but it still works. That's pretty much it. Okay, and everything that you see on this side is powered by this stuff on this side in the yard. Let me go over here to the fence. These are my 2D presents. Oh gosh, this thing's gonna be forever long. Fast forward if it's boring you. Maybe you'll find something else interesting. Those 2D presents are sitting on the fence. The reason they are is because when you look, they're behind the tree. So I have presents under the tree. This is a horrible angle right here, but if you go back to the very beginning and look in the center, I have presents under the tree. It's an optical illusion. They're actually back on the fence. They're on the fence because they're 2D, and I like them with the little bows. They're a little different than my 3D presents. And we'll open this gate and go behind the gate for a second. And so I just run the wire up. Now, this is what people go, well, your display looks so clean, sort of, kind of, until you start to look at it closely. Here you can start to see the mess of wires that come down, and then there's another controller box, there's another power supply box, and a mess of wires. Everybody talks about their fancy labeling system. Mine is painter's blue tape and metallic silver Sharpie. And that's how I label all that mess. So I can put it back at the end of the year, and I have an outlet back there behind the trash cans. Let's go. So I guess I'll not do what I said I was going to do, but do it anyway. There's the angel. The angel comes down the side, runs down that line that you see, comes back here to this controller to get its data and its power, and then it feeds the 2D presence, and the presence are on the same because this is about 350 and the presents are about 150, I think, maybe 200, so it's 550 pixels total. How do I do that, considering the angel's way up there? I use Cat 6 for a lot of stuff. One wire carries the data. Usually it's the solid blue for me. Then all of the striped cables, so blue, white, orange, white, brown, white, and green, white, are all negative. I'm going to try not to say ground because I know it's not a ground. Negative. And then the rest of the solids, the orange, green, and brown, carry the positive power up there. Then I have an F amp that kicks the data signal back up to bring it back down here so that it can feed the data down there. F amps, Cat 6 cable are your friends. For the majority of my display, if you see Cat 6, that's what it's doing. It's running a combined data, positive and negative, and I use lamp cord for all of my just positive and negative power wires. Again, double 2-wire. All right, that's that bit. So anyway, cones. Oh, I didn't finish. The other thing is that broom. If you're going to get into this hobby and you're not already aware and you're going to have a lot of cars, you will have trash. You will have lots of trash. You will get to get up every morning before your neighbors see it, or every night after your display when it finishes, and you'll be picking up trash. And in my case, sweeping rocks. Okay. So anyway, that controller back there runs everything on this side of the house. It has, oh shoot, I better show it here or I'll forget later because I'm really trying to speed this up at some point. Sorry. All right. That's 183. That says garage, but what that really is, this is what drives my DMX Floodlights. So this is a controller box. Again, just an Ethernet cable that you can see coming out. Oh yeah, I'm running this one hardwired. I had some issues with my wife's car in the garage, and I had to make this one hardwired. Anyway, here's the Ethernet cable. It runs to a PWM board. That PWM board takes the computer constructions from the CULP KPB, turns it into DMX instructions for power, red, green, and blue. No, I don't have red, green, and blue wire. And then that goes out to my floodlights. So that's another type of board that I run. I prefer to run the PWM driver boards as opposed to running actual DMX floods. I'm aware of the pixel floods. I run 24 volt, 50 watt floodlights. I like how they light up my house. I'm not sure how I would get that much power out of a pixel flood. And then in some cases I used to run 12 volt. I now no longer run any 12 volt. Sorry, Russell. But when I did, I used what's called a buck converter, and I would take that 24 volt, switch it down to 12 volt, and I would feed my candles, which used to be 12 volt, but they're no longer 12 volt as of this year. All right. Moving on. Oh, your other favorite friend. Cameras. I have cameras in lots of places. I don't know if you can see the one back there. Does multiple things. It allows me to watch the traffic, to watch my display, without having to stick my head through the blinds every couple minutes. Those are just $25 Wise cameras that I put in semi weather safe positions with a 3D printed cover on them. Super cheap. The other thing I'll talk about once and then not go over it 1,000 times is all of my downlights are also 25 pixels. There is inside of there a Raspberry Pi Zero and a simple wall wart that is wired into where the can light was, and this allows me to have RGB downlights. That was a lot of fun designing that with my 3D printer this year. My icicles, I often get comments and questions about my icicles. Those are just a custom Raywu string, pixel string that I had made back in 2015. I designed them. They have a variable drop. They are attached to PVC, and then on top of the PVC, you'll see a separate line that is square bullets. Square pixels sitting on top. And what that allows me to do is use the icicles by themselves and still have an outline, or use them all together and have a larger icicle drop. The other thing you see is my blinders. Look up strobe bundling on my YouTube page. Basically, I bundle 14 strobe pixels and 16 regular bullet pixels. Again, that's a 3D printed holder that I have for them. And those are my blinders that I have in various spots on the display. It's a lot of fun having blinders. It catches people's attention. The pixel ring, I can run white, but I can also kind of fake the eye, right? So if I'm running the all white strobe pixels, and then I put green on the RGB pixels, it kind of fakes the eye into being a colored strobe, kind of, sort of, not perfect. Okay, these are my 8-foot tall candles, custom made by me. Bought Coro from my local sign shop. Your local sign shop probably has a 4x8 sheet for 20 bucks. And then it used to be 12-volt modules. Now it's just, we've drilled holes into the plywood, and it's now a ton of bullet. Gosh, I keep doing that. Square pixels on the back side. The way I came up with the design was I went and bought a little candlestick of what I wanted, and then I took a picture of it, used my projector. I have a projector that I use for personal purposes, not for like this, when I want to project something onto another surface and draw it out. So that's my candles. There's 3 of those. This is all basically standard Coro stuff, so I won't go over it. You can see there's blinder, bells, holly. I often get asked about these. These are from Tom McGann in Colorado when he used to make these in 2014. He since sold the business, and then that business got sold again. It's become the commercial thing that you now see at Home Depot. And my personal opinion, they're nowhere near the quality as most things once you sell it and sell it again. These are heavy duty. I don't know if you can hear that. These are heavy duty tarp of some kind that he printed on them, and they're out every year, multiple months, no problem. Now, that being said, my house faces north. As you can see, there's no sunlight right now in the dead of winter, so all of my stuff is usually in the shade, which makes it a little bit better for wear and tear, since sometimes I'm really slow at taking stuff down. Another candle, another floodlight. Oh, Tony brought this up yesterday and I mentioned it. That's flashing tape. Anything that you are not sure about the IP rating of, and I learned this the hard way with my floods. Some of them, especially back when I used DMX floods versus now the PWMs, the seal on them wasn't very good. You can pick up flashing tape for $20 a roll at Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever, and then just wrap whatever it is in flashing tape. This stuff is super sticky. It's basically tar, right? It's like tar paper type thing that you're putting around, and it seals itself. Sticky, messy, horrible to do with. Sorry. Some of my stuff is permanent, where you see like this stuff is painted brown. My garage outline, a lot of my poles and stuff are permanent. They step all year round because I just have fun with them all year round. Icicles, bells. This is our wreath, our Mickey wreath. We took the Christmas bow from Boscoyo. We took a 4-foot and a 2-foot wreath and made a Mickey wreath, and then we just attached pixels with black zip ties and black wiring. And then the center is the mesmerizer from Boscoyo. We actually cut off the outer 4 rings because it was too big to sit inside of it, so we just modified and destroyed our mesmerizer, and now it's only 660 pixels as opposed to the 1024 or whatever it is. And then the ears are just black Coro spinners. When you find this There's a suggestion when you find stuff on a website that you like, ask the vendor if they have other colors. Buscoyo only had the white shown in white, but I asked him if he could do it in black, and sure enough, he did it in black, no problem. How these things are attached. This is a Russell McFarlane thing. So this stuff, most of you have the, what is that called? The lentil, I believe that's called. I may be wrong. That's the soup, isn't it? What is it called? Anyway, those are just earth magnets, and then everything's zip tied to that, and so it's not actually, there's another camera, you're being watched. And then everything's just zip tied to those magnets, and there's several of those magnets across the top. That started to pull away because, I don't know, I lost a footer or something. Okay. I said I was going to do that last, didn't I? Oh well, let's go over here to the yard. Okay, especially since we got some noise back here, plus we're starting to get lots of sunlight, so this is going to get harder. I have many more AC channels. This is what I call my Charlie Brown tree. I picked it up at Lowe's on discount one year. They don't sell them anymore. They just sold them that one year. My yard is outlined in AC lights. Here's my moving heads, my waterproof moving heads. I do something different than most other people. My moving heads, this one, and that one right over there, are sitting in the middle of my display. I don't want them to stand out as their own. I want them to be hidden as part of the display. If you go back and look at pictures from the front of my display, you won't see these. They just blend in. Yes, I'm very much about aesthetics. That's just part of how I am. They're waterproof. They've been sitting outside since the last week of November. They work amazing. And like I said about characters, I don't use these in every single song. I have 2 songs that I use them in, and otherwise they just sit here and hum along. You may wonder about that humming. I do leave these plugged in all the time so that they're at a somewhat constant temperature. I don't know if you can see, but there's frost on everything this morning. It's frozen here. I think it's 22 degrees right now. I prefer to leave these on and running just so that they're at constant temperature. I had one friend who got one of these and is already trying to figure out how to change the bulb. And I don't know if it's because of temperature difference, but anyway. Okay, and as I said, we've had, somewhere along here, hopefully I've said we've had 6 inches of snow this year. So here's my high-tech method of keeping stuff out of the snow. A Ziploc bag, duct tape around a block. Why on a block? So that any running water goes on past it. That's my high-tech method of doing stuff. All right, let's move along here. Again, I'm very much about aesthetics, so maybe if I move back here far enough, you'll see that it's just kind of hidden, right? These things are hidden. The moving head over there is hidden behind the lovely green Cox internet cable box that has been a pain in my backside for who knows how long. Okay, when these are put out, they're perfectly in line. The glow trees pretty much stayed that way. The RBLs, not so much. How do I do RBLs? You can see one that's fallen over here. I just take one of those 12-inch ground stakes. I have drilled a couple holes in the side of my RBLs, and I zip tie them. Normally they should be sitting up like those 2 that you see there. Well, that one's leaning, but this one's probably a perfect example of where the zip ties are still tight on the ground stake. This one is not even close. Yes, I have a mess of wires in places, but part of my design, this is my final design. Finally, I think I finally filled in the yard the way I want, so some of this stuff will finally get cleaned up after years of not deciding whether everything was where I wanted it. Chromaglow trees under HDPE arches that still run strip. Yes, I still run strip in my display. All these arches are strip. Let's see. Small Coro tree, medium Coro tree, medium spiral tree, large spiral tree. Not sure what to say about those. Rainbow arches. These are another one of our design. That's six pipes of HDPE in smaller diameter bends, and all of that has strip running inside of it. Down here is our ground fan, which goes to our floodlight in front of the Nativity. I call it a ground fan, to be honest. When I model it in X-Lights, it is a mega tree laying flat on the ground, because that's what it really is. It's 16 strands of 50. 17 strands, sorry. Yeah, that's something I can touch on. For most of my things where they have some kind of numerical value, I try to make sure that they end up at an odd number so that I can turn on the center item, right? So if you have 17, then 9 is your odd number in the very center of something, so it works for centering. This is our nativity. I'll walk around the back of it a second. This is custom made out of 2 4x8 sheets of plywood and some 2x4s. This is a DMX flood as opposed to a PWM flood. It's what I started out with. They're the ones that failed and taught me about flashing tape first. And I bought those in 2014. If you look at our very first year, 2014, you'll actually see those lighting up the house. Floods were something we got into the very first year. These spiral trees, I'll try to get in here where the shade is. I also use multiple different types of pixels. I don't just use square and bullet. Inside of here is actually, you can kind of see it on that one. Let's see if I can get it to focus in. There are wire pixels. I don't know how to describe them. There's something I found on Raywu, so I basically, or on the AliExpress side, I don't know that these were necessarily Raywu. Anyway, I took the star apart, I put this type of pixel in, and there's 10 of those pixels inside of that star. A lot of what I do is I just go searching for stuff, find something new, order a small quantity of it, start playing with it, decide if I like it or not, decide if I can find a use for it, and then I add it into my display. I have actually did a video last year for Existentials on mobile props, and I think I have something like 12 different types of pixels, and by type I mean form factor, right? So I have wire pixels, I have individual pixel chips, I have modules, I have square, I have the standard rectangular modules, I have the square modules, which are the old WS2801, which most people don't even know about WS2801 because I had a clock wire. Anyway, here's the other corner of the display. We've made it here. Yay, rah. Hopefully I've covered something you like so far. And again, it's outlined with the boxes in different shapes in the 3D boxes. Same thing, 33-foot tree, ASAP Senior, double stage pole, 4-foot star. Similar on this side. 2D boxes behind the tree to make them look like they're under the tree. And with this ones, we actually offset them a little bit to give them some additional life so they're not just sitting flat. So they're that away. Stake your stuff down in the ground. Find stuff when you're taking your display apart. Hey, there's a pin. Hope that's not one out of the tree. Alright, there may be a pin missing somewhere in that 30 feet. Yeah, that's the other fun part when you start taking it apart and you start finding the zip ties that you dropped and everything else. Not sure what else to say along here. These are also, if you look closely, these are also pixelated. Is that a word? I don't know if I can show it. Basically, has a pixel ring in the bottom and that's not gonna work. A pixel ring in the top, so I can light the top and the bottom or together. Alright, we're going to pick up because it looks like I missed something as I was going back, so we'll go back to these for a second. Must have hit the stop button when I didn't mean to. Anyway, here, these are all pixels. These are the only place you'll see me use 3-wire because they don't use a lot of data and power, but they're pixel, yardstick, whatever lights that I've modified. No, they're not solar anymore at all, obviously. And you'll see them in a lot of videos, and they're part of the permanent lighting that stays up all year round, so I can do fun things with the lighting at my house, even when it's not during the season. Most of this stuff is just standard Quoro stuff. I'm trying to remember what I said when I wasn't videoing and I thought I was. This is an AC prop, another Mickey. I guess I can talk about this. So you'll notice that this PVC actually has the same shape as the shutter. Just use a hot glue gun, Hot air gun, paint removal type gun, $20 at Walmart, and bend it to the shape you want. Now the nice thing is this is more of that permanent lighting. There's a reindeer face that is Rudolph. He sings during one of the songs. He's also a backup singer at times. Again, variety is the spice of life. I try to have lots of variety in my display. So that's that stuff. My number, if you look closely, my house number is actually part of my display. My wife used her Cricut and created this template where the 3, 5, and 0 are missing. 3, 5, and yeah. Anyway, and this is just a piece of plexi. And we used brown caulk around it with 12-volt modules, and it gets its data and its power from a control that's sitting over on that side of the house, which you'll see in part 3. I already know that because this is part 2 that's a mess up. Anyway, it's part of the fun, and it's part of the permanent lighting like the pole here. So the only thing that's really an eyesore is this one black line from there that nobody notices from the road anyway. So pixels in the can, blinder, icicle, outline, try to remember, and then I went from there, and we'll go into here. Again, anything that's AC is hooked up. Anything that can be part of the light display is part of the light display. Oh, look, another camera. These are, again, converted down can lights to pixels. These were bigger, so these are 50 per, so it's 100. And the difference with this, instead of running on Raspberry Pi or Culp or anything like that, is they're running on a Node MCU with WLED as the operating system. The reason is, you'll find another video if you go look under my name where I talk more about this, but basically, when it's not lighting season, I wanted my wife to be able to hit the light switch behind the door and have the lights just come on white like a normal light would, so that she doesn't notice any difference. But then I wanted the ability to control them during the pixel season, and so WLED can be overwritten with E31 data coming from FPP. And so they act as pixel lights during the season, but now they've gone back to just being normal house lights that, unless you look up, you'll never notice that it's not a can light. So that's that. More stuff along here. Holly, snowflakes, icicles, blinders, pixel cans, singing face, different Christmas ornaments. See, I do make repairs during the season. There you go. That's what I use. Dolphin connectors and a crimp. No heat, no fuss, no muss. And they're bright blue, which nobody can see when the display is running, but they're great for when you're pulling it down later if you're wanting to make repairs. Of course, that's a permanent, so I guess I'm going to have to pull a permanent down and make repairs. But P5 matrix, you can see again, the flashing tape, duct tape, Mickey spinner, cause ribbon. I am a veteran, so it's yellow with U.S. Air Force veteran scrolling across it during my public service announcement. Love for our name Valentine, of course, and the heart because we're Valentine, and of course because our display is called Bentonville Heart Lights. And I think I did the spheres in part 3, so I won't cover them here. And I was standing here in front of the tree, and I started to go like this, and that's when everything shut off. So go enjoy part 3. Bye. Okay, well that was interesting. My phone will shut off after a certain point, so we'll pick up here. This is a white AC strobe, mini strobe string, and a red mini strobe string, and down there on the trunk is green strobe string. So that's about it for here. There's my 2 power supplies for the matrix. There's my mess of stuff for over in this area. The reason I have multiple controller boxes and power boxes is my display is very modularized, so that I can take stuff down and put stuff back up anytime I want. I don't have everything tied to one controller or anything, so that I can actually shut off part of my display, do repairs, turn it back on. Yes, it's noticeable, but at least people still have something to watch. These are my spheres and spinners, and then the spinners I just put some pixels going up to it to make it kind of a lollipop in certain places. The spheres are just sitting on 4-foot rebar, 2-foot rebar. These are PVC spheres. Don't ask me where they came from. I found a guy in a video at one point during last year, 2018 maybe, ordered them. Finally got them put out this year. Those are 3D printed spheres. You can find those on Thingiverse. And that's pretty much it for this stuff. Let me try to back up and see if I can get the roof. All right, we're gonna try to go with this to get the roof. So nothing is actually attached to the roof. It's all sitting on the roof with counterbalances and saddles is about the only way to describe it. But nothing is actually attached to the roof except for the snowflakes and stars that are laying flat. I do have the simple shingle tab things that you use, like for hanging normal Christmas lights on the edge of your house. But those are just used to put into the side of a shingle and then zip tie to give it a little bit of rigidity. But otherwise, there's just saddles sitting up there, and I'm going to go around to the back so you can kind of see it. And then I use counterweights or wire. And I talk about wire, and I didn't mention it earlier. I use bed spring wire. There is a bed spring manufacturing company that's about an hour and a half from here. And they just have extra rolls of bed spring wire. I sometimes mistakenly say baling wire. It is not baling wire. It's actually much stronger than that. And I get it by the mile. I mean, I get a ton of this stuff. Okay, maybe not by the mile, but I get these huge rolls, and I've got more rolls that I could use for the next 20 years. All right, I'm going to pause this and move. And as I went to move, I realized I never talked about this. This is my donation box. My donation box, that is, I took a plastic container, turned it upside down, put the pole in it, and poured concrete, and then cut the plastic container away. It was one of those big plastic containers like you get at Walmart to use as the form, and put the pole in there. There's the pixels around it, and then you just have the handle to pull on the handle. Boy, if I'd have been smart, I'd have brought the key out with me. But basically, if I undid the key in here, there's foam in the bottom of this, so when people put coins or anything, it doesn't clank, 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 clank. Just keeps things a little bit quieter for other people that are watching the show, which is really hilarious now that I have the moving heads that hum all the time. And then in the back here is a Pi Zero W and a simple cell phone battery backup. Because all my stuff's 5-volt, it runs off of cell phone batteries. And so that's why there's absolutely no wires connected anywhere to my donation box. And during my public service announcement, I have this thing flashing and going crazy and catching everybody's attention. And conveniently, it sits near the regular mailbox. Not sure what else to say. It's hot glued on. In the daylight, you can actually see it's just a hot mess. But you know what? It works. So there you go. All right, A, it's too stinking cold, and B, it is not safe with the moisture up on the roof to get up there today. So I'm gonna have to do it from here, and I'll try to zoom in some. But this is a fairly large 8-foot wind sail. Oh, I'm sorry, 8-foot Bethlehem star, but it's like a dang wind sail. That thing has fallen, been pushed from both the north, because it faces north, and we get strong north and south winds during the whole season. It has been every which direction, and I've been up there multiple times. Hopefully you can see there's a solid, let's see if I can do this with my finger at all or not. That's not gonna work, is it? There it is. All right, there's a solid bar there. That's solid aluminum pipe that gives it force there, and there's a wire there. And it's pushed way back, and there's sandbag weight way back there to counterbalance. Again, nothing is attached to the roof. It's just sitting, that saddle is sitting on the roof. And then there's boards and it's screwed together, and same type of thing. It just comes down the house like the angel, and goes to the controller box in the back. I'll show you the back of the Merry Christmas saddle. The other thing I'll try to show you while I'm here is the outline of the roof. Boy, I don't know if this will focus. It's trying to focus. If you look closely, there's rebar All that is PVC, and look how straight it is not when you look at it during the daytime. So all that is PVC with square pixels sitting on top of it, and then there's rebar on either side of the pitch that are counterbalancing it, and that's all that's holding it in place. It's not actually attached to the roof. So all right, we'll pause and go around to the back of the house, or maybe we'll stop this one. We'll look at this one controller. Why not? Whoa, hello, hold on. How do I get that fixed? All right, all right, here we go. I'll give you a walk around the house. There's another set of controllers. Here's some stuff. There's another camera if you look closely. That's on a switch inside the house. So if I need to flick the power or not, I can. Here's probably my best mess of wires that anybody wants to see a mess of wires. You'll notice this red heavy gauge extension cord. The moving heads are actually on the pool, plugged in at the pool, because the pool's not on during the season, and I just prefer to have those moving heads on a completely different breaker myself. So all right, pausing and moving. All right, so now we're in the backyard. Yes, I already have my ladder up because at various times during the year, for various reasons, I need to get up there. For me, this is a 10-12 pitch, but I have plenty of valleys. Like you see the valley right there, and I can just walk up these valleys. Makes it pretty easy. So I'll try to zoom in. This is more saddles. You can see all of it's done as saddles. I just set those saddles, and I say saddle, it's just two boards screwed together, and then I sit stuff on top of the two boards, and then as you can see, there's sandbags that lay there. You can actually see there's a controller box with power supplies that powers everything that's on the roof. It's 2 power supplies for everything that's on the roof, and that's pretty much it. Boy, I feel like I'm running out of stuff. Maybe I am running out of stuff and I just need to shut up. Okay, well, if you have questions, there's been some different ideas. There's probably stuff that I missed that you have questions about, and that's fine too. Just shoot me a question wherever, and I will do my best to answer it from my perspective and help any way I can. Hope you got something out of this. Bye. All right, this is part 4. This will be a little bit more, if you will, behind the scenes. So to give you some orientation, we're standing next to the small tree where we were looking at stuff earlier, trash cans on their slab. There's what ground stakes look like, if you're not familiar with what a ground stake looks like. At one point in time, I thought I was going to be one of those people with hundreds of pea stakes, and I just chose not to do it. My yard it doesn't work for me. There's some rebar, and people often ask me, well, how do you pull your rebar with an old-fashioned, oh my gosh, my mind's going blank, a tractor jack, sorry, and some rope. I pull things out of the frozen ground with that every year, no problem whatsoever. People ask how I store my mega trees. I already said I lay the poles on the side of the ground, and I roll up the strips and put them inside these barrels. There's actually 4 of them, but right now I'm trying to get rid of those trash and styrofoam from Christmas gifts, and so they double as styrofoam holders to then go on a weekly basis into that trash can until we get caught up. Anyway, that's my barrels where I keep my strips. Some people ask me how I move the poles, the ASAP poles, because that is 220 pounds of concrete on the base. Get it lifted up into one of these gorilla carts, which all the sides come off of it so it can just lay flat. And then I roll it around with my wife's help to the side of the house. But, and here's my wife's car that's somehow interfering with the display. And we're in my garage now, so excuse the bikes, excuse the mess. Some things are hidden in plain sight. There you go, folks. I do have some wires running along the ground that are taped just inside the garage door with blue tape for some of the stuff. This is not part of the permanent stuff, but it's a way to hide it so that out in front you don't see it as much, not all of it. If it's on this garage door, it gets run under that pole I showed you on the outside that's with magnets, but otherwise onto this door. Usually I'm too tired and too lazy by that point when I'm setting up a display that I tape it inside the garage door. But the reason that we're coming in here, time to work on the lawnmower. Let's see if I can put some more light on the situation. Woo! There we go. The reason we came inside. By the way, there's my Pixel hat if anybody wants to know where I store my Pixel hat and my second Pixel hat that I'm building. So, oh shoot, I'm gonna have to go back outside and show you something I forgot. Anyway, hopefully I can get my hand up high enough. There is the master Raspberry Pi. There is the FM transmitter. There is the mixer that mixes the sound. I don't use the USB mixer, I use an actual sound mixer. And then that goes out, sorry I did that in the wrong order. Pi to mixer, mixer to FM transmitter, and to receiver that powers the outdoor speakers. And I never showed you the outdoor speakers. The FM transmitter, if you look, there's a black cable going up the wall. See if I can follow it very good with the camera, and it goes up into the attic. And let me pause and show you the speakers outside, and then we'll run up into the attic and I'll show you the antenna that I use to broadcast. All right, well, I didn't follow it. There's a couple of green wires here, and those green wires here are for the speakers. It's the only place where the green wire is not power. And there you see them, two simple rock speakers. But because of the way everything else is, the eye just kind of ignores them, and they're in a great spot that basically projects the sound in both directions to all the visitors, but mainly, as I said earlier, to the folks sitting right there in the, can I call them the cheap seats? Sure, I guess. Well, I mean, it's free, right? So, sitting on the island watching the display during the warm weather. And now when we come back, I should be up in the attic and I'll show you the antenna for broadcast. All right, let's go up into the attic. Obviously, Christmas is already coming down on the inside. There's part of what I'm already working on next year. This is my workbench, if anybody cares. There's my soldering station. All my supplies are kept there, or they're kept there. But for actually, as far as the display, everything gets stored up here in what I affectionately call the Christmas locker. It's like a meat locker. So this, well, nothing like falling in that video. I'm gonna just leave that in, just because I can. Okay, sometimes I'm a little clumsy. This is something else. We have one of the Boscoyo 3D trees, and we put a couple of medium stars up on top. That's something that we're gonna put out in part of the permanent display out in the garden. Okay, this is what's affectionately called the Christmas meat locker. Yes, that's a dining room chair that needs fixed. You can kind of see it there from the shamrock and the hearts. Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, more holidays coming up. Anyway, everything gets hung up on wires pretty much. If it can hang, there's a shot where you can see them. There's wires going across the rafters. And I just hang them like meat. And then there's some other spots, like for the arches and this whole area. Originally, the only thing that was decked in was this little section here. And then I just came in and decked the rest of my 3-car attic. And I would say 95% of the display, depending on how you want to measure, stays up here all year round. There's Halloween, in fact, over there. You can see Halloween. So let's go across over here and make our way over to the antenna, because I promised to show you the antenna. And there's always, once you get into this hobby, there's always stuff that you start and don't finish, or stuff that you hold on to that maybe you're going to do some other day. You know, don't, from my perspective, don't try to finish everything you start as soon as you get it. Sometimes you need to just sit on it a while and you may think of a better way. All right. Woo, this is not. Can I turn on the flash? All right, put some light on this. Ooh, My attic has little dust things flying around. Okay, awesome. This is that the wire came in. We were following the coaxial wire to here. This is just hanging. This is called a quarter wave antenna. I know for a fact that this will reach over 2 miles. I actually turn my EDM transmitter down so that I don't broadcast too far. I am not going to say on video on whether I'm over the FCC guidelines of 200 feet. I will say I am definitely not at the 2 miles. But anyway, you can look it up. And me being lazy, there's my diagram, and I leave it right here. I put this antenna up probably 4 years ago, and that paper sat there the whole time in case I ever need to do anything ever again. I've got my instructions right next to my product, but this is sitting in my attic. This is the front wall of the garage. In fact, the Mickey Wraith is probably sitting right about there to give you an idea where this is at. And so that's what I use, a quarter wave. Basically, I got some, I knew somebody that had some spare Romax, house wire, the actual electrician house wire that they put in your walls, and stripped some of it down. And I think the actual components cost me maybe $10 off of Amazon. Hung it up with a fancy zip tie, a couple of zip ties and a screw, and it just sits suspended in air, and it broadcasts our signal 102.7. So okay, now hopefully I've covered everything that people would want to know, or at least have covered it close enough that somebody will be thought to ask me the question. And thanks for watching. Okay, after watching what I've made so far, I realized that I missed some stuff. You missed some stuff. So this is, I've got a list of stuff on my sheet of paper here, and we're going to try to go through some of the stuff I missed. Here's the first big thing that I missed that's probably really important. This is a Unify AC Pro. This is a wireless access point. I actually drilled through my attic, and it's hardwired to one of my Ethernet ports in my garage, and then it comes out here to the edge. And to give you a reference point, this is probably one of the most forward places on the house, but it's still under the eaves and protected. This is the key to running everything wireless as far as I'm concerned from my viewpoint. This is what allows me to broadcast Wi-Fi down to my neighbor's house down there and my neighbor's house down there, and it's what will be used with the low ray later on for the neighbors across the way that want to be part of the display as well. Yes, for right now, it's got a fancy-dancy, just some wire holding it in place, and that's probably interfering some with the signal. I'm going to properly mount it. I actually just put it under the eaves. This year, it used to sit just inside the garage, but this year I moved it out, and I'm going to actually mount it properly during the off-season this year. But that's something that I missed in the earlier that you definitely need to know about. Having an outdoor Wi-Fi access point just really helps for Wi-Fi coverage. And they're about $125, $150, I think, and has been more than worth the investment to not have to run Ethernet every place. And that's just my choice. I know a lot of people like to run switches and routers and multiple this, that, and daisy chain, and I just prefer to be Wi-Fi, so that's how I do it. So let's go over here for a second. Something else that I missed earlier was the back of the nativity scene. I said I would talk a little bit more about the nativity scene. If you look really close, there's a seam right here where I've kind of nailed it together. It is 2 4x8 sheets of plywood. You can also kind of see the ground fan from back here a little bit better. And I said by 2x4s, just some cheap hinges, and then have it sitting kind of on the ground with the supports, and there is a wire from Mary to the top and from Joseph to the top that kind of helps it keep it more rigid. This is actually the second one. The first one I made, I actually sat it on the ground, and because of all the moisture, the bottom of it ended up rotting out. Granted, it took 5 years before it rotted out, and then this off season I built this one, and that bottom 2x4 board down there is actually CCA treated lumber that's sitting on the ground now, plus The other thing I did was I did cutouts in the base here, so that any moisture can actually run through and air can get underneath. I don't know if you can see that. Air can get underneath and help keep the board dry during the season. Painted a bright white on the front and a black on the back, and that's the nativity scene. Over here on this, look, I'm not going to say strips are perfect, but man, they're beautiful. And I can't imagine running arches without the strip wire. I get it. They sometimes they fail. Now, over the years, I've gotten my design more and more solid to where the strip doesn't move, and that's usually what causes the strip to fail. It's that radius bend, and then it's movement within the the pipe, from my perspective, that cause them to fail. The one thing I did do is this is the one place where instead of using regular, so here's a regular type. Remember, I run double 2-wire, so all you're going to see is two wire connectors. But anyway, instead of running regular pixel connectors, this is the one place that I run JST connectors. That way, if I do have one fail during the season, it is really quick to unhook a JST, throw a new strip in there, which I have ready-made, the different sizes that I need, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, and 90 for the largest. I just run JST. I put some bulb grease, otherwise known as dielectric grease, in those connections, and they work absolutely beautifully. So that makes quick changes on the HDPE arches. That's one thing that's a little bit different that after I watched the other videos, I thought I probably should mention. I would also just say, as a point of reference, that for the for the blinders in the center on my icicles, when I first built these icicles, this was all one piece, right? So when I was taking this whole thing down, it was a real pain because we'd have to work from either side of the roof. I've now put a JST connectors in the middle. The blinder is on a JST connector so that I can take down just this side and just that side. So that was something that I learned along the way. The brick, somebody probably is going to ask me how I attach to the brick. To be honest, I have strategic holes, and I don't know how well I can do this. I have screws and put a hole in the front of my facade, and then other things, kind of like the counterbalance on the roof, other things are just hung down from that, right? So gravity will pull this down. So this doesn't need to be attached to the wall at all, because gravity or a simple line to the side, two sides, will hold these in place. So I do have a few holes in my facade, but they're very minimal, and when everything's down, nobody would notice. And if somebody comes to buy this house, I really don't think they're going to end up saying anything. I can always brown caulk it like the numbers. And to be quite honest, we had this house built for us over 7 years ago. It's our forever home. We have a pool in the back that we've put in. We have other things that we're doing. I don't plan on selling this house. I'm going to die first, and then, hey, it's not going to be my concern anyway. Not that I'm planning on dying soon. Just don't take that wrong. One other thing that I wanted to clarify, that I made a comment in part of the video, and I hope you stayed long enough to catch this. I said something, about a moving head and about somebody having a problem with their light bulb on their moving head. I want to clarify. It's not this moving head. They're not running a waterproof moving head. It's a different brand, a different supplier. And I don't know any of the details of why they're replacing their light bulb. So I apologize for saying that to my friend Nick. Hopefully that doesn't get taken wrong. Nick had some problem. I don't know why he had a problem. I don't know if he's had it fixed. I shouldn't have used that as a reference for these. These I got at the end of November. They're from a completely different supplier. They don't require a dome. They're multicolored. They have gobos. And I personally, just because of my own viewpoint, have left them on, because I personally think that leaving moving heads on because of the tech that's involved in them and having a constant temperature, I think would be better. I'm making no statements about anybody else's moving heads at all. These have been rock solid. Everybody I know that have used these have been rock solid, but I don't know how everybody's using them, and I shouldn't be commenting on other people's moving heads. So I apologize for that. I have one more thing to cover, and then hopefully I'll finally be able to put this all together and put it out on the internet for people to actually see it and start asking real questions so I can videotape more of what I probably missed. I apologize. All right, hold on. Okay, now we're back at the donation box, and I have the key. So we're just going to open it up long enough to show you what I was saying earlier. I will say there's a key, and there is a key access point on the front, but I strategically put a square pixel right over the top of it so that people can't even realize there's a key there. So anybody that's local wants to figure out how to jam their key, great, now you know. So much for me being secure and safe and all that. Okay, this is what I was talking about. Let's get inside the box. There's foam in the bottom, there's the Raspberry Pi Zero, and here's the simple cell phone battery backup, and the wire just runs down underneath, and it comes out, to be honest, underneath the thing here, and it just wires up and does the pixels. So I wanted to show the inside of the box just in case anybody wanted a better idea of what the inside of the box looks like. Okay, so this is probably over an hour long once I put all the sections together. We're gonna come back out here. First of all, thanks to my neighbor who lets me play with the stuff that he's purchased and put on his house. To clarify, it is all his. He just allows me to sequence it. So when I say it's part of my display, it's his display as well. But he just kind enough to let me kind of expand what I get to control. So with all that, and with hopefully covering, let me look at my list here, that I've covered everything. Yep, I think I've covered everything that I meant to cover after watching the other segments. This is one final shot of Bentonville Heartlights in the bright, bright, bright sunny daylight of January 10th, 2021. The end of a wonderful season for us. We made lots of memories with lots of great visitors. We had fun. We came out here several nights watching the show, watching the kids in the top of their cars, and hopefully you get something out of this video. If you're brand new and have no clue what I'm talking about, no idea whatsoever, give me a shout. I can give you where to go look for a primer. There's another video channel that does a great job of that. And hope you all have a wonderful 2021. We will look forward to being back in October of 2021 with our Halloween display at Bentonville Heartlights. Thanks again.